The web server needs to process any PHP code before it sends the page to the browser, but it won't do that unless you tell it to do so. You do that by giving your web pages the file name extension .php instead of .htm or .html. Let's create a simple page. I'm in Dreamweaver, and in the welcome screen there's actually an option for create a PHP page. If I click that, you'll see that I get an ordinary web page complete with doc type and an HTML skeleton. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this page in my exercises folder as embed and then .php. That PHP file name extension is simply an instruction to the server. It doesn't make any difference to the way you build the HTML structure or the CSS in your web pages. So let's add some HTML and some PHP to this page. First we need to give it a title, so change that untitled document to embedding PHP in HTML. Then in the body of the page, let's have a top level heading, an H1, and we'll just say this is plain HTML, and a paragraph. So is this. And our third paragraph, this is HTML, but the day is generated by PHP. And then comes the PHP part. What we're going to do is we need to have an opening PHP tag, which is an open angle bracket, a question mark, then PHP, no space between them, and a space after the PHP, and I'm going to put a little bit of PHP code in here, echo, which will display something, and then use the PHP date function and give it an argument of L, lowercase l in quotes, then a semicolon, and I need a closing PHP tag, which is a question mark and an angle bracket. Then we'll add a period, which will be part of the HTML, and the closing P tag. I'm just going to save that page, Control S or Command S in your editor, and then let's go into our browser and see the result. And so I need to open a new tab, and the address will be localhost /exercises/ch01/01_02/ and then the name of the file, which was embed.php. And there it is. There is my web page. This is plain HTML. This is HTML, but this bit is generated by PHP. My day, Monday, I'm recording on a Monday, has been generated by the PHP code. So if I go back to my editor, it's this PHP block on line 11 that has been converted into the current day of the week. And if you test this yourself, of course, the day of the week will depend on whichever day that you're using it. Sometimes PHP is stored in a separate file. I've got an example here in the 01_02 folder called copyright.php. Let me just open that. And this contains only PHP. Notice that there's a PHP opening tag at the beginning and a closing tag at the end. And it's very important to make sure that there is no space before the opening tag or no space or extra lines after the closing tag. If you put extra space in, it can create a problem known as headers already sent. I deal with that particular problem in the chapter on handling PHP errors, and you'll see how to deal with it later in this course. Now, the important thing to remember is that when you give a page a .php file name extension, you always need to view it through a web browser, even if it doesn't contain any PHP code. When building sites that use PHP, store your files inside the root folder of your testing server. This is the equivalent of the top level of a website. If you're using XAMPP on Windows or MAMP on a Mac, the root folder is called htdocs. WAMP server and EasyPHP use a folder called www, and Microsoft's IIS uses a folder called www-root. To view a PHP page, make sure the web server in your testing environment is running. To display the file, enter the URL in the browser address bar. If you're using the server's root folder in a local testing environment, The URL is http://localhost, followed by the location of the file. Separate folder names by forward slashes and finish off with the file name. If you're using a non-standard port, add the port number preceded by a colon after localhost. For example, by default, MAMP uses http://localhost:8888. Throughout this course, I assume you're using the server root of a local testing server. If you set up a virtual host or are using your remote server for testing, you'll need to adjust the URL accordingly. Although it's possible to configure a server to process PHP with a different file name extension, you should normally use .php. Use this for all files in a site, even if you don't plan to add PHP code to a particular file. There's nothing to stop you from mixing .html and .php file name extensions in the same site, but resist the temptation to convert only some files when adapting an existing site. It leads to confusion and broken links. Always wrap PHP code in PHP tags. An opening tag consists of an opening angle bracket, a question mark, and the letters PHP. You might see code examples that omit the letters from the opening tag, but short opening tags don't work on all servers, so stick with this format. The closing tag is a question mark followed by a closing angle bracket. One final point, you can have as many blocks of PHP code as you like in a page, but each block must be independent. You can't nest PHP tags inside each other.